On this episode of Mentor Moments, we are welcomed by Fiona Hill, a licensed professional counselor and a registered play therapist.
That sentence alone says so much. It's asking for connection, it's asking for presence, and it's asking for communication.
Fiona Hill is the owner and operator of Lighthouse Play and Consulting. All right, today we have our guest Fiona Hill joining us. Fiona, thanks for sharing your life with us. So our listeners would love for you to tell us a little bit about your career.
I'm a licensed professional counselor, and I graduated from Maryville in 2003. No, 2013. I just forgot a one there somewhere. Anyway, so I graduated from Maryville in 2013 with a master's in rehabilitation counseling, and I've spent most of my career working in either government or in nonprofit or community mental health. And so once I graduated, I started my licensure process and became a play therapist. And so that's what I'm doing now. Right now I'm in private practice. I've been in private practice since 2019, full time. And so I get to use play therapy with kids and families. So I joke and say I get to play all day. And that's probably my favorite part of my career, and sometimes play is work, and so the play is really serious, but it is my favorite. It is my favorite, and Brayton will know I can't say that part of it without also talking about digital play therapy and incorporating technology and digital tools in therapy. I think play therapy in general is my favorite, but digital play therapy, just in incorporating technology, really just opened up my clients and my practice in a way that I was not expecting. So
you're our first play therapist we've interviewed. So could you give just a quick definition or example of how you use play while you're working with your clients?
So play therapy is incorporating the words and the language of kids, which is play. And so the toys are, we like to say that the toys are actually words. And we say kids, but I'm a firm believer that even adults are kids at heart. And there are things that there are things that play therapy are good across a lifespan for. And so it's really a way to get into what's going on beyond maybe what words can explain.
For some of our listeners who want to get a little bit more information, is there a website or something that you would suggest that they check out?
Yeah. So the play therapy website is www.4pt.org.
Awesome. We'll put a link in our description to that as well. So
yeah. So and it has a lot of resources for the community, and then also professionals kind of talking about what it is and things like that. So cool stuff.
I love that you mentioned that communication piece, because one thing that I've noticed, at least in my practice, is the vocabulary that adults have is not the vocabulary that kids have. So sharing the best way that kids share their thoughts and feelings and actions and emotions, that's in play. That's their main communication tool.
Right. And they not say, hey, I had a really hard day and I had some big feelings. Can you help me? Instead, it might look like, will you play with me?
Yeah.
And so that sentence alone says so much. It's asking for connection, it's asking for presence, and it's asking for communication in a way that is their mode of communication.
I would love to hear more about how incorporating like the digital piece to it has. You mentioned that it's changed your practice. I'd love to learn more, more about that.
How much time do we have? And I think about it a lot because as a kid, I loved video games. And I never connected it because as I got older, I didn't play video games. So I had access to them at my grandparents' house. I had an Atari and played Pac-Man. That's a long time ago. So as I got older, I didn't have access to it, so I didn't play. And then when I was a young adult, I played, but again, I didn't think anything of it. And then COVID hit, and it's funny though because I remember a week before saying, "There's play therapists that do play therapy online." Never. That will not be me. And then a week later, guess who is emailing her clients? Hey, we're going all telehealth. So, and we're going to make it work. There's different parts of play therapy, but one of those is sand tray. So basically, sand tray is a way to use miniatures and sand to create a world and to communicate, process things, and just to be able to externalize and put distance to the story. And I love sand tray. That's really one of the things that helped me to fall in love with play therapy. And I was like, how am I going to do sand tray? How am I going to do this? Because I brought all of my stuff home because, I wasn't using my office. And so long story short, I was asking around, and there's an app called the Virtual Sand Tray app that was co-created by Dr. Jessica Stone and her husband as a therapy tool. And so that was kind of like my gateway into digital, incorporating technology and digital tools. And then Dr. Stone has like all of this amazing information. And so I just kind of dove in, and that's, yeah. And I'll never forget my first client who I started using it with. And when we went to telehealth, I spent 3 months doing parent coaching because our first video session, he was like, "I'm not talking to you. You're a poopy head." I'm like, "Oh, okay. I guess we won't talk." But I noticed that the entire time he was next to his parent, he had his iPad. And so when I went back in person, I started incorporating it. And he went from, even when we were in person before, he wasn't able to last more than 15 minutes. We went from 15 minutes to almost a full hour. And we went from, "I'm not talking to you," to, "Dad, guess what?" Oh, and let me back up. I have permission to share this story. So, just for everybody out there, I just want you to know that I have permission. But, going from not talking to you to, "Dad, guess what? Fiona and I adopted each other in Roblox." I was like, "Buddy, you have my heart like forever and always." And so that was my first really in-depth introduction to use of it. And then not to mention just the professional and personal connections that I've made through it, lifetime friendships. So, okay.
Oh, that's great. I love it. I mean, I have a sand tray in my office. I've been able to utilize sand tray, and I definitely understand the challenges and difficulties that come with going virtual. Every snow day that rolls around, part of me is just like, oh no, okay, it's time to prepare. How am I going to do this? How am I going to do this virtually? So transitioning, I suppose, to our next question. This season, we're spending some time discussing about like career development. Where people are in their careers. Are they just starting out? Are they maybe in a middle part? It's really cool to see the different needs of each stage. So for you personally, where would you say you are in that like career development process?
Yeah. So I was thinking about this question today, and I actually texted a friend and colleague because we were talking about this when I went to a training a couple of weeks ago, and she has this wonderful phrase that I'm going to quote, and I'm going to credit her because I was like, I'm going to use it, and you'll get credit, but I need it word for word. So, I am a promising beginner. And my friend Deborah McManus says that. There could be other people that say it, but I heard it from her. And that's what she tells her, her supervisees and her interns. For the first 10 years, you're a promising beginner. And I feel like, because I went into counseling kind of the long way around. When I graduated in my bachelor's program, I knew that I wanted to be a counselor, but I graduated in 2000. And so then, so I went the long way around, and now here I am. So I feel like, and I've been in social services all of that time. And I've only been a therapist since 2017. So I feel like maybe I'm a promising intermediate.
I love that term. To me, it really, it's very strength based. It denotes sort of a lifelong learner, and just because we have a degree or a job doesn't mean we're stopped, right? That there's more. Yeah, I might have to steal that or borrow that or quote that phrase as well.
Go for it. She's a genius. So.
And again, I think that, like, when we talk about career development, I mean, you really hit two things there, that you are experienced in helping field social services, but then you went back for another degree. And so that does sort of, I don't want to say restart, but you're, again, in one way, you're very experienced, like you said, sort of maybe the intermediate now, beginner or promising intermediate, but you're again, you kind of have two different career phases, I guess, is what I'm trying to say here. So.
And I think, and as we're talking about it, I think too that development, we tend to look at it, or I tend to look at it linear, and it's really not, because I can be a promising beginner in one area and be a promising intermediate in another area and be a promising expert in another area, all simultaneously. It makes me think about, I took a clinical supervision training over the summer, and it was talking about the developmental model of supervision, and how you have these different developmental levels, and that's kind of what that reminds me of.
Yeah, you said that much better than I did when I was trying to say that it's not linear, and we can kind of cycle through it at different times, or again, depending on sort of what we're developing, we're at different phases.
Yeah.
So I think that transitions nicely to, can you think of any moments that were more impactful than others to your career development, and then what you learned from those moments?
There's a lot. And I've already mentioned my delve into digital play, but I think it will always be imprinted in my mind when I was working in community mental health as a clinical case manager, and I had, and so there's two things about that. When I interviewed for the therapist job, my director, the director at the time, said, "Okay, Fiona, so if we were to hire you, what age group would you want to work with?" And I said, 5 to 12, and then 25 and up. So I missed like that whole, adolescent stage. And she said, "Fiona, that's not going to happen." I'm like, well, you can try, right? And then the other thing was that once I was offered the position and I accepted it, it was that transition period of I was ending one job and starting another one, and I remember looking. So I'm across my desk from a family, and it was a teenager, and in the back of my head, Fiona, what did you just get yourself into? Like, okay, I can do it. I can do it. And then, transitioning into being a therapist and hearing this family story and thinking, wow, you should really go to therapy. And then it's like, oh, that's me. I get to be the therapist, and so yeah, so I think there's been a lot of transformational periods, but just, but I guess the main one, transitioning from a professional life that I'd always known. I mean, I could do case management with my eyes closed. I can list resources like, okay, this, you need something fixed. I can give you the resource to fix it. But then, that transition of, okay, so yeah, now I get to sit here in the strength and in the mess, and we figure it out together.
Has there been anything that has really surprised you from that transition? Things that you thought would be really hard that turned out being really easy?
So when I first started, because I'd been doing case management for so long, one of the things that I struggled with, at least in the beginning, and then I thought that I would ongoingly struggle with, was having a long-term relationship with clients. Because case management, you might work with people more than once, but it's okay. So we have this concern, we have this issue, we're going to take care of it, and then now we're going to move on. And so I think it has really surprised me in the way that I have been able to actually, develop those relationships long term.
Well, I can see where both of those situations are really transition points. Like you said, I remember as an early teacher, when I was first started teaching, I was at different institutions. And so I never taught the same student twice. And so there was a difference when, I sort of have a past relationship with you, at least from this course, to hear and to really kind of, whether it was good or bad or neutral, like, okay, what does that mean here? And how do you keep, well, that was last semester's work separate from this semester's work, and just kind of continue, or, to build that way. And I hear a lot of our students talk about when a client doesn't come back, right? And what does that mean? Did they fire me or whatnot? And so just sort of kind of processing that. So yeah, I can see where those are sort of transition points.
So I think like going off of that, then you've already we've chatted a little bit about things in your career now that you really enjoy, that are really exciting. are there anything else just about like that being a therapist, being an LPC that is incredibly exciting for you, that is totally new?
I feel like I'm always learning, and there's always something there's always something to build on. There's always something to learn. And I think a lot about Maya Angelou's quote, "When you know better, you do better." And so just being able to find information, get information, and then not just having information just to have it, but to be able to apply it. One of my early clinical supervisors would say often that if you have to be in a corner, make it the best corner ever. And so sometimes when we go into a session, it might look different, but every time we have the opportunity to make it the best that we can.
I mean that, yeah. I mean, I don't know what your mentor moment's going to be, but that was pretty good right there, right? That what a message for our listeners too. Again, no matter what situation, how do we make it the best that we can? So I appreciate that. This season, we're also trying to not only focus on career development, but also recognize that we need life-work balance as well, and that we're more than our career. So who are you besides being Fiona Hill, LPC, play therapist extraordinaire?
Well, I like to spend time with people. I like to be around people. I like to read. I like to spend time in nature, but I don't want to live out in the country. I like to visit, but I don't want to live there.
Well, what are you reading right now?
So I do like historical fiction. And so I've actually, Deer Creek Bride is a good series that I like right now. And as I've gotten older, I'm leaning more towards like the audiobooks. And so I'm starting to really like those a lot, but yeah. And I do like to geek out and read like play therapy books and stuff like that. But that's still work though. So.
Well, I was going to ask if you're playing any video games.
Yes, I do like to play video games too. What am I playing right now? I do still like to play Animal Crossing.
Yep.
I haven't played in a while, but Don't Starve Together is good. Have you guys played that at all? Okay, so Don't Starve Together it's a farm-based game, but it's a collaborative game. And I think they have it on Switch too, but it's a computer-based game mostly. And so it cycles by day. And the goal is for everybody to work together to gather resources and to survive.
I can see Brayton thinking he's getting ready to get some new video games in his life, I think.
Well, I was just gonna say we should do like Dr. Keener and I we should do like a Twitch stream of us playing that game. That'd be funny. That'd be hilarious. So I think you briefly mentioned a professional organization, but we would really love to give you the mic, learn about any professional organizations that you're a part of, anything that you'd like to go deeper on, any shout outs, anything that you'd recommend.
So I'm a member of APT, Missouri APT, and then which is the Association for Play Therapy. I am a member of the World Association for Sand Therapy Professionals. I had to think about it because it's a long title. I had to think about it. And then I am involved with a committee. It's called Mental Health and Virtual Reality. And so we're working on some really cool research and writing for that. And then I'm an advisory board member for digital play therapy. So yeah.
What do you get out of being a member, or what makes you a joiner? My wife always calls me a joiner. So what makes you a joiner? Yeah.
Which one?
Hey, any of them. I mean,
So APT. You just have to be interested in play therapy, and there's dues associated with that, and then with the mental health and virtual reality, you just have to have an interest in it. And so, yeah.
Well, Fiona, now's the time. Are you ready? We're turning the mic over to you. We're ready for you to wrap all this great episode up. Let us know your mentor moment.
Okay. So the first one is from my amazing mentor, the best person ever on the planet, said that if you have to be in a corner, make it the best corner ever. That is Dr. Daniel Blash, Sr., who said that. And then the second one is, if you're a student, figure out your theoretical orientation. Know it well. Learn about all the theories and practice them. Know them well. And then as a clinician, know what your theoretical basis is, but know enough about the other one so that you can be prescriptive.
That's awesome. I mean, that is such a impactful thoughts. Again, maybe it's the educator in me when you were speaking to the students. I kind of watching Brayton's face while you were giving that too, and I could see his brain thinking as well. Fiona, thank you so much.
I mean, it's so applicable because being a student just like less than a year ago, and now going into like being a clinician, those are both so applicable. So yeah, I love those.
And it's so hard figuring out what your theoretical orientation is, right? Because in school, it's just a brief overview of all of them. But really, what I'm finding, especially in play therapy, that if you know your theoretical orientation, it doesn't matter what the modality is, whether it's traditional play, digital play, stand play. You have your foundation, and then that's going to guide your work with people.
Thanks again for listening to another episode of Mentor Moments, and we want to take this time to get to listen to you guys, our audience. If there's anybody specific or anybody in a certain area of expertise that you would love us to interview, feel free to give us an email. Our emails are linked in the bio of this episode.
We couldn't be more happy about the amount of listens and plays and interaction that we've gotten from season 1 and season 2. Brayton and I are continually trying to be innovative, create new episodes, new features in the episodes. So please, as Brayton said, let us know your thoughts. We want to meet your needs and continue to grow Mentor Moments.